Am I the asshole for gifting my mum and her husband a book on cheating for their anniversary? I'm 16 male and I love my mum, 35, but when I was 10, she had an affair and left us. I visited her as often as I could, and she always seemed so happy when I was there, but I hated her new family, so I stopped visiting. Honestly, we rarely ever saw each other after, just for my birthday and events, really. She wants us to be close, but I want nothing to do with her new husband, so I have kept my distance. Except on February 20th, my dad announced that he would be out on business till the 12th, and my grandparents are stuck visiting relatives in Italy, and so I really had nowhere to go, and my mum jumped at the chance to have me stay with her. And just my luck that my mum's anniversary with her husband was on Sunday. I haven't had a good time here at all, so all I do is stay in my room doing homework or go out with friends to avoid family activities, because it sucks seeing how lovey-dovey she is with her husband and how they seem like the perfect family with their daughters. The morning before her anniversary day, she came to my bed and tried to cuddle with me like before she left us, but it made me angry. Like, we can't go back in time and pretend it's how it was. So I just pretended to be asleep and stayed curled up and frozen until she left. I started crying because of that, and I felt angry and snarky, and my mum majored in literature, so I got her a copy of Anna Karenina for her anniversary. That book's about a lady who leaves her husband and son for her lover. I have never read it, but I watched a movie with my girlfriend, and I hated it. The anniversary party was on Sunday. Everyone was having fun but me, and then people gave their gifts. I gave mine, and when my mum saw what it was, she seemed shocked but just said thanks. The party ended like an hour after, but at night when she was in her room, I heard her crying really loudly. So I kinda eavesdropped a little and heard her saying stuff about that book and me, and her husband tried calming her down. The next day at breakfast, she left for work early before I woke up, and her husband straight up called me an asshole and other stuff for gifting them that. It's been a few days now, and my mum has barely talked to me. Honestly, I feel so wrong that I made my mum cry, but at the same time, I don't want to be here, and she knows that, so am I really the asshole? And edit, thankfully the mods have locked this, but to everyone who's DMing me, here are some facts to read before you do. I gave my mum the book to try and get it across to her that I hate being at her house and being around her family, and that it hurts me to be there because I sympathized with the son from the movie, not because I want a train to run her over. I do not want that to happen to my mum. I do not want my dad to get back together with my mum. He is happy with his fiancée. My dad has his reasons for not wanting me to go to therapy and is just being protective. And yes, I stopped visiting my mum because I hate her husband, but she had custody of me on weekends or breaks. She could have forced me to be with her, but since being with him or making him be with us whenever I did go to her was more important, she never tried anything beyond the bare minimum of going to big events. And now in the comments. Definitely not the asshole. For one, Anna Karenina is a classic and a great gift. For another, if the shoe fits. Not the asshole. Okay, so I get you're mad, but you do recall that Anna loses absolutely everything because she leaves her family and is torn away from her children because her legal husband refuses to let her see them, which is contrasted against her brother getting away with multiple affairs and not losing his status or children. And then she begins to lose her mind because she thinks her lover no longer wants her, so she kills herself. That is an extremely loaded gift. Did you really mean to imply with it that you hope her life falls apart like that? Now, I don't blame you for being angry, but I think you should ask your dad about therapy. It is clear that you have been holding 6 years worth of pain inside, and that is not good for you. You are poisoning yourself with anger and sadness over what has happened, and if you don't learn how to gently work it out of your system, you will keep hurting yourself and people you do love. I suspect there is still love for your mum in there. It's just that you were sad and hurt that she did this, and it feels like she left you. She did a shitty thing, but I think she really wishes she could make it up to you. She's not gone about it the right way, but if you can talk it out with her, you may be able to slowly mend and rebuild a relationship with her. OP, I get your anger and hurt. I really do. But it does sound like Mum wants to make it up to you. She is not a psychic, so maybe if you can talk to her one-on-one about how you feel, you guys can start over. And in replies to all of that, OP says, "Of course not, I don't want my mum to die. He's not going to let me go to therapy. I do love her, she's my mum, I will never not love her. And if she was willing to actually have one-on-one time without her family being around, then yeah, we could start over." Not the asshole. Your mum had to face her past horrible behavior, and your gift caused her to have to confront the fact that her affair affects you negatively to this day. Her husband needs to stay the hell out of it. If he says anything else to you, perhaps you should challenge him on it. Oh, so you'd be okay with my mum cheating on you and walking away from you and your kids for a new man? Because that's what your behavior is telling me. And from the POV of the kid who was left, I can tell you it has affected me in a negative way ever since it happened. And your crappy attitude is the largest reason why I don't like to visit with my mum. I don't like you. I never have. So keep your opinions about me to yourself. Don't let your mum's tears guilt you. Did any of your tears after she left your family ever move her to action? Follow her lead on that. And OP has some replies to that and says, "Honestly, I hate him and just don't say anything to him no matter how much he reaches out. After he ranted at me on Monday, I just gave him an 'Are you done?' look and left to go to school. However, this is amazing, so maybe I will say all of that. And she wasn't trying to guilt me. She didn't know that I was eavesdropping. So I guess take all these replies as you will, people." Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my husband to stop speaking Spanish when I'm around?" So my husband is from Spain and I am from Germany. We met in Germany and between us we speak German. I don't know how to speak Spanish. We moved to Miami 6 months ago because of his job, and I hate when he starts to speak Spanish with random people, especially in restaurants or his friends. It feels like he doesn't give an F about me, and when he speaks Spanish, I'm just standing there without knowing what he is talking about. Normally, he always speaks English with other people if we are together, and he doesn't know the other person, but if he knows that the other person knows how to speak Spanish, he would always talk in Spanish. He just forgets about me. I've told him that I feel weird when he's talking to other people in a language I don't understand, and I've told him that if I'm with him, he should always talk to other people in English. He says that they are usually short conversations. This is true, but it's still strange to stand there with a smile without knowing what they're talking about, and that it's weird for him to talk to someone in a different language that they usually talk. He also says that he loves to use Spanish in his day-to-day life, and that I should understand that. Am I the asshole? I'm not telling him to stop speaking Spanish, I'm just telling him to stop speaking Spanish when I'm around. We live in Miami. Everyone knows how to speak English. And for some info, everyone is asking why I don't learn Spanish. Now, when we started dating, I decided to learn Basque. He is from the Basque country, a region north of Spain, and they have their own language that is different to any other language in the world, because that is the language that he speaks with the majority of his family. The problem is that it is a really difficult language, and I ended up giving up. I would love to learn Spanish, but I don't have the time right now. And now in the comments, "You're the asshole. You live in Miami. 66% of the people in Miami speak Spanish. Often it is their native language. Don't ask your husband to ignore his birth language. Deal with your insecurities." This, and try to learn Spanish. You say you don't have time, but I do Duolingo every day for 10 to 15 minutes, and I can already say several sentences and understand pretty much everything in Spanish. This, you don't have time to learn Spanish, but I bet you do. We all waste time on our phones daily. Take some of that time, even just 10 to 15 minutes, and devote it to learning Spanish. Both you and your husband will be happier, and you're the asshole. You're the asshole. You are incredibly ignorant and disrespectful of his origins, as if you wouldn't start speaking German if you met German speakers. Only difference is that the husband can understand her. Gonna hazard a guess that he wasn't raised speaking German, so if he can learn German, she can learn some Spanish or build a bridge to peace and figure out a way over it. Fellow German here, you're the asshole. Just learn Spanish if you can't handle not knowing everything for 5 minutes. It might help with that arrogance too. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for criticizing my son's decision to buy a really expensive computer?" My son is 20 male and in college, but he's a little spendy with his money. Recently, he's been interested in restoring old computers, and I don't get the appeal of such. They are obsolete for a reason. Yet they can cost dozens or even hundreds, and they kind of become a mess with how disorganized he is. Recently, my son got a job at the Apple Store and needed a new laptop because the one that he got was defective and he couldn't return it even after it went out for repair several times. So he was able to contact his credit card company and issue a refund, and he pawned off the laptop to the highest bidder. He told me that he was going to get a MacBook, but I didn't expect him to pay $6,000 on a fully decked out machine with massive amounts of memory and storage that he doesn't need. I got on him and told him that he needs to be more responsible with his money and that he can't just be buying stuff like this willy-nilly, and demanded that he return it and get a cheaper model because I don't want to hear any sob stories about how it broke. He then began to yell back at me for us to get off his back and that we need to stop nosing in on his personal decisions and judging his every move, that he needs the power because he's a computer engineering major, and that the last thing he needs is me breathing down his neck after we expressed our dismay about him getting a part-time job behind our back instead of prioritizing his studies and not add stress to his workload. Since then, he has given me the cold shoulder and doesn't update me on what's going on like he usually did before this, which is leading me to reconsider everything. And now in the comments, so he's doing a degree in computer engineering, and you don't trust him to know what computer he needs because you think he's just a kid who can get by with a basic one. And moreover, you gave him a hard time for getting a part-time job to help support himself? For God's sake, cut the apron strings. You're the asshole. 1. He is an adult now, let him make his own mistakes and fix them. 2. He's studying computer engineering, that computer will take him a long way. And 3. It is his money. You're the asshole. He's an adult and you are being extremely controlling. He can get a part-time job if he wants. It is none of your business, and it doesn't mean that he's not prioritizing his studies. You need to cut the apron strings. As someone who studied computing, he's right. A powerful machine will be useful to him. You're the asshole. And every comment here you add confirms it. You already explained yourself in the post. Repeating the same arguments doesn't make them any better, it just reinforces that you are the asshole. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for not telling my fiance directly I technically own a house?" So I technically own a house, but it isn't really mine. My dad has really bad credit, and my mother doesn't work. They had enough money for a deposit, but would never have qualified for a mortgage. So once my sister and I got our first jobs, they bought the house in our names. Me and my sister both consider it their house though, and while I contribute as I live with them, my dad pays for the mortgage. It honestly never crossed my mind to mention the house to my fiancé until I was about to sign the prenup that his lawyer drafted. When I explained the situation to my lawyer, he advised that I include it in the agreement. My fiancé found out after my lawyer sent the new version to his. I didn't think that he would be upset over it, but he is. He said I should have told him directly, and he shouldn't have had to find out from reading the new prenuptial agreement. I hadn't seen him in person before the new agreement was sent to them, which is why I never mentioned it, since I didn't think we should talk about it on the phone. It also wasn't a big deal to me, so I didn't think I needed to immediately mention it. Am I the asshole? And now in the comments, you're the asshole. I get that it isn't a big deal to you, but I think for many, or at least me, it would be. You own a house. Technically or not, that will have a big impact on your ability to get credit, etc. It also puts you in financial risk should your parents suddenly be unable to pay. If you suddenly have to pay for the house you own, that has an enormous impact on your ability to pay with your fiancé for a house you want to own together. I definitely would have wanted to know something like this before getting married. It's a large financial risk, burden, and asset all rolled into one. It means he has to trust your parents that they will continue to pay for your mortgage. How well does he know them? This is a big deal. How will you two buy a house together if you're still on the hook for one already? As a mortgage professional, I can confirm it will absolutely impact their ability to qualify for a mortgage on their own too, because you can't exclude a mortgage if someone else is paying for it unless they are legally obligated on the mortgage, which they are not, so the housing experience will be included as a debt for OP. This would be a big deal to me, because OP is putting their credit and possible future finances on the line. Parents didn't get poor credit by accident, it happened because they don't pay their debt on time. Bad plan by all parties. You're the asshole, because this is a pretty big deal financially. It will limit the kind of home loans that you can get, and could potentially make it a lot harder to buy a house if it is possible at all. If you previously discussed your finances with him and left this out, that's a pretty big omission to make. You're the asshole. You were marrying someone and kept significant financial information from them. You might not be paying the monthly bill, but the house is in your name and you own it. If your parents stop paying, guess who's responsible? You. This affects your credit and any future homes that you want to buy or your ability to get a line of credit. You should have told him when the talks of marriage started. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for not holding my daughter so my husband could nap?" So I, 36 male, am a professor at a local university. I love my job, but the amount of classes I teach makes it very demanding. We are decently wealthy due to stock investments, so my husband, also 36 male, stays home with our daughter, who was born 6 months ago via surrogate. My husband wanted to be a stay-at-home husband and father. He does the majority of housework, and I admit, I could definitely pitch in more when it comes to cooking, cleaning, laundry, etc. When it comes to our daughter, however, I consider myself to be very attentive, and when I'm home before her bedtime, I put her to bed, play with her, feed her, etc. This evening, I came home and informed my husband I had an important presentation I was doing to be able to get a research grant for work. He was frazzled when I came home, and seemed pretty exhausted, and our daughter was crying. I held her for about 10 minutes while he was able to shower and get changed, and she calmed down considerably in that time. However, when he came back downstairs and I tried to hand her off to attend my Zoom meeting, my husband wouldn't take her. He said she was asleep with me quickly, and that he wanted to go and sleep too, so he could catch up now that I was home and she had calmed down. I told him that I had an important meeting in around 10 minutes, and I wouldn't be able to hold her during the meeting because I needed full mobility to present and type, and I didn't want to wake her. He exploded on me, saying I do nothing around the house and he is exhausted all the time. I told him we can talk about the distribution of labor later, but that right now, I needed to go to my meeting and he couldn't sleep. I handed him back our daughter after a little more arguing, went to my meeting, and when I came out, now he won't speak to me. Am I the asshole for refusing to hold my daughter until after the meeting? And now in the comments, you're the asshole. Your husband is going to burn out, and you seem to think a 10-minute break for a shower is doing enough? It's 2022. Not a single person in the world is going to blink about a baby in a Zoom meeting. Make time, quickly, or you will lose them both. Seriously, about the Zoom thing, I think my male CEO has a baby in his lap more often than not. If anything, the attendants would go, "Aww," and then, depending on the actual importance of the meeting, probably fawn over the tiny one. Can confirm. I've gone "Aw" also for pets. Also, when the babies are upset, we have offered to reschedule the meeting or wait. Agreed. Babies and pets showing up on Zoom has been one of my favorite things since we all started Zooming. And just want to comment to all the parents out there, when your kid is being cute and adorable, it is so cute to see. And also, when your kid is whining or crying or being the opposite of adorable, child-free folks like me are also thinking, holy F, it's gotta be hard to be a parent. Thank God I don't have kids in this pandemic. There is no way that I would make it. There have been times these last 2 years where it's been tough just taking care of me without going crazy. I cannot imagine the pressure of being responsible for keeping a tiny human alive through all of this. Honestly, in a COVID world, I am in awe of anyone who takes on being a parent. So don't judge yourself too hard if the kids are screaming or etc. during Zoom. It is fine, crap happens, we are all rooting for you. Not the asshole for this one night. Meetings happen. However, you're the asshole for letting it get to the point where your husband was so frustrated that he exploded. Do better with helping around the house, or if you are decently wealthy, consider hiring a maid or relief sitter to come in at least once a week. OP replies, "My husband refuses to let me hire a maid. I have made the suggestion multiple times. I'll broach the idea of a sitter." Your husband is the asshole for refusing the maid. You offered a solution and he won't accept it. Perhaps he won't accept it because he wants OP to participate more, and hiring help gives OP another excuse to avoid participating. I say participate because the baby is not the husband's responsibility. OP wouldn't be helping out, he would be actively participating in his family. I think that's total crap. Providing a maid is helping. Working a few extra hours to cover it is participating. Some people are just miserable doing house chores. If hiring help makes you happier and doesn't break the bank, do it. I don't discern a difference between working a few more hours and hiring help instead of doing chores directly. As for specifically time with the child, I agree with you. The post specifically mentioned OP's efforts on that front though, so I feel that's an unfair point in this context. These posts usually boil down to the working parents switching off when they get home, leaving the stay-at-home parents to pull their weight in the off hours. Alright, and I hope you enjoyed these 5 stories today, guys. Tell me what you thought of it down below in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys think, and please watch my live streams. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.